Hello, in this video today we're going to be solving May-June 2022 paper for one. We've solved 2021 and 24, so let's go and solve May-June 2022. This is a 2022 paper. Okay, so in the first question, the text file highscore.txt stores the players who have scored the top 10 scores in a game in descending order of the scores. This is important, descending order of the scores. So it stores the first three characters of the name of the player and their integer score. Okay, so the score is integer and it's in descending order, so you have to keep that in mind. So for example, the current player in the text file, so we've got F5 as the player name and then the score is 10,000. The program needs to read data from highscore.txt, allow the user to enter a new player and their score, and if appropriate, it inserts the new player into the top 10 and writes the top 10 players name and score in a new text file, so it has to create a new text file. Okay, so the program stores an array of 11 elements, 10 elements to be read from the file and 1 element to be inserted by the user. Okay, so it has one extra space. So write a program to declare one or more arrays as global data structures to store the player names and their scores. Okay, so we are going to have, so first of all, let's go ahead and open the evidence.document file, which we will need to go ahead and, so the folder will contain your text file and evidence document. It won't contain, in an actual exam, it won't contain the PDF file. For the purpose of the video, I've downloaded the PDF file. All right. So once you have filled up your candidate details, so let's go ahead and open Visual Studio Code. Now I'm using Visual Studio Code. If you're using PyCharm, the process is a little bit different. You need to create a project file. So once you come to Visual Studio Code, what you just do is go ahead and click on Open Folder. And then from here, what it goes, in my case, it's desktop. And then I choose May 22 because that's my folder. So I'm going to select the folder. So in your case, it should have evidence.document and highscore.txt show up right here. So from here, we're going to be creating a new file, and it's going to be named question1_j22.py. And this format has been instructed by the question paper right here, question1_j22. Oh, it's 2022, so it's better that if we go to Visual Studio Code, press F2, and if you made a mistake, just rename the file. Okay, once your file has been renamed, let's go ahead and zoom in slightly. I'm going to close this. So first we need to declare a global array, okay, a global 2D array for player, for the players, okay. So the question has not mentioned us anything about the array's name, so we're just going to call it declare player array, okay, and I want to call this an array which will contain 1 to 11, okay, or in this case, since I'm using Python, I'm going to call 0 to 10, and this is a global 2D array, right? So since it's a 2D array, I'm also going to be using 0 to 2, okay. This is pseudocode declaration. Since it contains two data types, okay, so of string and integer. Okay, so this is a common declaration. So if you're using Python, you need to use comments. Okay, so in my case, so let's go and call it player array, and it's going to be using two data types. So it's going to be using two data types. So in this case, I'm going to just go ahead and put this, since it's a 2D array, times 2 for x in range 11. This is going to put 11 data types. Okay, so this is the first part of the code. So let's go ahead and quickly paste this. I want to remove the italics and save it with Control S. Okay. So moving on to the next part of the question, the procedure read high scores opens the text file highscore.txt and reads the data into the data structures declared part 1. Okay, so we need to declare a procedure now, which is def read high scores, right? So it doesn't take any parameter. So in my case, this is the global player array, so you're going to declare it as global. Okay, so it needs to declare, it needs to read all the data from the files, right? So we're going to be doing suitable exception handling. Okay, you can also go ahead and use the with command with open file, but this might be a little bit complicated for A-level students, or it's not that beginner friendly. So if you don't know this, it's just better to use suitable exception handling according to the syllabus. So file, open, then in this case my file is highscore.txt, and this file I want to read it. Okay, so from here I want to go ahead and take the player data for 10 players, right? So I know that there are 10 data in this file and I need to read all the data from highscore.txt. So what we're going to be doing is for x in range. Since there's only 10 data, I can directly use a for loop. Okay, I can directly go ahead and use a for loop. So with that being said, so now let's go ahead and write player array. Okay, so before that we need to obviously extract the data from the file. So the first thing is player name. Okay, so from this I want to do is file read line, and I'm going to be using the strip function since it's in a new line, and player score to remove that new line actually. So file dot read line dot strip, and then I'm going to doing ahead is player array. So in player array from X, and in the first column I want to insert player name, and in player array X1 I want to insert player score. All right, and that's going to be it pretty much. So once I've written the data in the file, I'm going to be doing is file dot close, and if the file is not found, so except IO error, I'm just going to do is print file not found. You could also return false, or any sort of exception handling will work. Okay, so this is going to be the second part of the program. We just want to go ahead and go to our evidence document quickly and paste this, remove the italics, and save. Okay, make sure to save your evidence document. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to the next part. The procedure output high scores outputs all the values from the data structure in the format, player name, and scores. This is how it is going to be output. So the procedure will be output high scores. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So def output high scores. Okay, just name it according to the question. Okay, so def output high scores. So there are for x in range in this case. So there is 11 data in this array. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to put 11 print clear array x 0 plus, you want to add a space, plus clear array x1. That's going to be the player score. And player array obviously is global, so what you're going to do is player array is global. So that is output high scores. Just outputs the scores from the array. That's pretty much it. So just go ahead and paste it in our evidence Word file. Oops, what did I just do? Just save it. Okay. So there goes our next part of the question. Okay, so let's move on to the next part. The main program should first call read high scores and then output high scores. Write the program code for the main program. Okay, so what I want to do is go to my Visual Studio Code. So the main program first calls read high scores, then calls output high scores. Okay, so what I can just declare over here that this is our main program. Okay, uh, this is optional. You may choose to do it or not do it. Okay, it's totally going to be up to you. Okay, So does the question actually require anything more? Write program code, copy the paste the program code. Okay, so we need to paste the program code in this case. So let's just go quickly copy the program code right here. Okay, so once you take a screenshot of your program, so what you're going to do is just try to run this. So looks like it is successful. So this is our program code. So what I'm going to do is just take the screenshot of the terminal and then just paste it here. Okay, this is pretty big. Just make it small. When you're actually practicing, make sure you actually practice, pasting them in the evidence document. While practicing, it might not look necessary, but in the actual exam, you need to do it. So it's better to practice it. Sometimes there are people who has actually forgotten to do anything to the evidence document, and ended up like, kind of messing up their exams. So it's better you kind of practice it. So the main program asks the user to input a new player name, and if this is in the top 10, it'll create a new top 10 and include it in the top score. So if this is in the top 10 kind of scores, then it's going to be included in the area and then written to the text file as mentioned in the program. So it says amend the main program as a 3-character player name and integer that must be between 1 and 100,000. Okay, so that's inclusive. So what we want to do is we want to ask the user for input. Okay, so user player name. Okay, so I want to input, enter the 3-character player name and user player score. Now this should be integer, and then it should be input, enter the score. Okay, so we want to go ahead and put this into a loop so that it kind of validates the input. So let's cut this here. So while true, okay, we want to take a user input. So if user player score is less than or less than 1, or user player score is greater than 100,000, then we want to break the loop. That's it. Okay, simple as that. So let's go ahead and uh, paste this in our evidence document, just like that. Okay, so this is going to be the code for our. We just want to make sure that it's running carefully. So ABC, let's just call it ABC. So if I enter score 300, 1, 2, 3. Oh wait, it is. Oh, I actually reverse the condition. If the user player is greater than, and this is like it's within, so it's greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. All right, so I want to go ahead and update my evidence.doc file. There you go, and now save it. Save my code and let's rerun it. So it's always a good idea to run your code. 300, 1, 2, 3. Okay, it's still breaking the loop. So if it is less than 100,000, it must, okay, and it's greater than, or, okay, I think I need to change it to and because both conditions must be true. ABC 300, 1, 2, 3. Okay, there you go. 500, 1, 2, 3. 100, 1, 2, 3. There you go. It breaks from the loop. So one more change, so just one word and. So I think we can just go ahead and just go to this or and type in and. That's it. Okay. So there goes our code. So and, so both conditions need to be true. If you use or, then since your value is greater than and equal, it's greater than 1, that means one of the conditions is true and it just breaks the loop, right? So that's what they're trying to do over here. Or that's what my previous problem was. Okay, so write the program code to declare a procedure that takes the player name and score as parameter and creates a new top 10 list. Okay, so let's just call it new player creation. So it takes the new player name. So it takes player name and it takes player score as parameters. All right, and it creates, so I want to first also put my global player area over here. So it creates a new text file in this case. All right, so it's going to first go ahead and take the input, and then it's going to be creating the new text file. So once we have taken a valid input from the user, so we can just kind of go ahead and pass username and user player score, right? So that's gonna work. So now what we want to do is we first want to go ahead and check, okay, that if there is any free elements in our array right here, so we can enter it, right? We can enter this into our array. Now note that since we're doing a 2D array in Python, we initially use a string right here, okay? Because a string is a safer option in this case. Why is that? Okay, you could also go ahead and just do this, and it should still work fine if I'm not wrong. Okay, it should. There you go. So it must be a blank string, because once it's a blank string, you can go ahead and read this data as well as this data over here, right? So we need to go ahead and whatever input we're taking over here, we must convert that to a string to add it to the array, and then later on we're going to think about the text file. Okay, so that's important. So we want to see the 4x in range 11. So we know that there is an empty space, but it's always better to check, right? So if player array x comma 0, so one position is enough, is an empty string. Okay, you could do it like this, or you could do it like this. It really doesn't matter. Then what we want to do is player array x. So at the empty position, we want to add player name. And at that same empty position of the column, we want to add string, so str. So we convert that to a string, and then we add player score. Okay, so this part is for adding the player to the array. Okay, so adding the player to the array. Okay, so now there is another problem. The question has stated us at the beginning, at the beginning it had stated us that the array over there, okay, or the text file organizes it in the order of descending order, right? In descending order. So the text file over here stores the scores in descending order. So since it stores it in descending order, what we need to do is we need to sort this array. And for the sorting part, you could actually use any algorithm you want. So I personally, I have chosen, or what I'm going to do is I'm just going to be using an insertion sort. So I'm going to be using, so sort using insertion sort. You could use a bubble sort. It actually really does on it. And you cannot actually use the dot sort thingy in Python. The reason, like the dot sort method, actually not thingy, a method, because the thing is, this is a 2D array, right? So what we want to do is we want to arrange it in terms of this player name. If it was 1D array, then you could have used sort, and the array must be of integers. If you want to use the sort method in Python, the built-in ones, we need to write the bubble sort or insertion sort algorithm by ourselves. So for range 1 in 11, because this is an insertion sort, so for x in range, okay, so I want to write temp name, okay, so player array, okay, x. Now also note one thing, okay, so write a program called declare procedure that creates new tuptons. So it creates a new tupton. So I'm in the main program to call the procedure from part 1. Okay, output. Okay. So clear name x 0 and temp score. So this is a temporary variable. Clear array x 1, and I'm going to call this temp pointer, which is going to go to x. So while temp pointer is greater than 0, and what we want to do is clear array. So we want to see that if the previous element, okay, since we are doing descending order, with the scores is less than the temporary score that we're comparing it to, while it is less than, so what we want to do is we want to go ahead and put the greater score in the previous element. Greater score in the previous element, or what we want to do is put the lesser score in the next element. So let's go and do that. So player array temp pointer 0. So what we want to do is we just want to put the uh, player arrays. So we want to put the previous score into the next element. So that's what we're just doing. All right. So just copy this. Okay, just making my work a little bit faster. Okay. And then we just want to decrement temp pointer. So minus equals to 1. That's how we decrement in Python. And now what we want to do is just copy these two lines again. Oops. And I want to replace this with temp score because we want to put the scores there. And I want to replace this with temp name, just like that. Okay, so this is now arranging the array in descending order. Okay, so this is, we're just implementing an insertion sort over here. All right, so with that being said, this is going to be our new code here. Now, if you look at the mark scheme, they actually do it in a little more efficient way. But during the exam, we want to go ahead and do things quickly because the question never mentions us that we need to do things in an efficient way. Now, don't get me wrong, as a programmer, it's always necessary that you actually follow the most efficient way over here. But since now it's an exam environment, I want to go ahead and finish my task quickly. So I want to use stuff that I already know, okay, instead of kind of starting to figure out an efficient way in the exam, okay? If possible, and if you can't figure it out, then that's great. But otherwise, it's okay to just, use whatever knowledge you already have, okay? So you can follow the mark scheme if you want to go ahead and study the efficient method. That's up to you. So once we have done new player creation, let's look at the question again. Amend the main program to call the procedure from part 1e. Output the contents of the array before and then after. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and cut this from here. We just want to read the data. So what we want to do is print. This is going to be the before result. So let's just call it before. I don't need to go ahead and put this. And then I want to do is output high scores. Then what I want to do is I want to call new player creation with user player name and user player score. Right? So yeah, str right there. And then I want to go ahead and print after. And then I just want to go ahead and output high scores again. Now let's try to see what happens. Okay, so before, okay, so I want to call, we just want to go ahead and call before. Okay, it's okay. Let's just input the new names first. So the new name is JKL, so let's just copy that. Oops. JKL, entered the new score, which is 9999. So JKL, oh, okay, something went wrong. JKL is inserted at the very top. It prints a blank space because like that's a blank line. Okay, so we're having a little bit of issue with. Are we having a little bit of issue with our insertion sort? Are we? So player array. Then we've got our temp score right here. I don't think it should be a issue to kind of use it with an integer. So that's going to be a temporary name. Then we've got our insertion sort. That shouldn't be the case. So let's just review this part of the code. So we want to go ahead and see that if that's the case, then yeah, that's where we kind of go ahead and do player name. So, okay. Okay, what I want to just do is right here, I want to see if it's being added to the array correctly. So I just want to print player array in this area. So it's JKL 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, there we go. So JKL, okay, yeah, there we go. JKL is inserted at the very end in this case. Okay, I want to go ahead and compare both of them as an integer. Okay, let's compare both of them as an integer because we want to compare them as integers in both cases. Let's try it now. Because sometimes because both of them are nines, strings are compared in that manner. So 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. So we need to compare this as an integer because strings, look at this. This is also a 9 and this is also a 9. So the nines are compared as a string instead of an integer, and then nines are in the same group, and in that case one becomes a one becomes a bigger integer than one becomes like this one becomes a smaller integer than 9, right? So that's how it is compared as a string, not as an integer. So we need to compare it as an integer. So that produces a logical error. All right, so 1 is a smaller number than 9, so it actually compares it as a string. That 9 versus 1, all right, that means 9 is going to be at top, but we want to compare this as an integer. Okay, so that part of the program is done. So we did make some amendments to this. I'm just going to go ahead and copy nuclear right here and just save it. Okay, so from here now, let's go ahead and do this. Okay, so with that being said, so write a procedure, write top 10 to write the new top 10 players, and we need to, we need to copy and paste a screenshot of our output. So what we want to do is do JKL 9999. I want to make my window a little bit smaller so that I can take the entire input to show the examiner that I've done everything. All right, so just copy this. And okay, it looks visible enough to me. Okay, so procedure write top 10 shows the new top 10 players in a text file called new highscore.txt. So we need to create a text file with this new procedure now. All right, so let's go ahead and do that right now. So def write top 10. Okay, so we just call the global array player array in this case. So global array player array, and we want to do is write top 10. So over here, we don't need to use exception handling because we are going to be creating a new file. So in this case, the name is going to be new highscore.txt, and this is going to be the write function now. Okay, so what we want to do is for x in range 11, these two file datas, right? What we want to do is we want to do file dot write, then we put the player array. So we put the player name first. So that's going to be x, and that's going to be 0. Okay. Then what we want to do is we want to go ahead and put in a new line in the file. So we want to do is file dot write, because this, if you consecutively just put writes, what's going to happen is it's just going to go ahead and put all the strings in one single line. So the command for Python, new line in Python, is a /n, and then we also want to do is file write, and then we want to do is we want to put clear array x comma 1, sorry, x2. That means the second one, that's a score. Okay, so that should do the trick. Right, copy and paste program code. Okay, we just did that. Okay, so that should be it. Okay, so that's pretty much it. They never told us to run it, but again, your code needs to be correct, so just go ahead and run it. So JKL 1, 2, 3, 4. So the program ran without any issues, and we can see that okay, a new file wasn't created, was it? File dot. So sometimes, not closing the file may cause issues. So the file wasn't written. So I'm just going to go to my folder where the thing is. There you go. We just have highscore.txt. So the file wasn't written. So let's just try again. Again, I'm going to write JKL 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, okay. Damn, I didn't even call right top 10. Sorry, guys. So right top 10, JKL 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. New highscores.txt is created, and if we just go into that file, oh, okay. So JKL is created here. Okay, so I think we have a solution to do that. Like, yeah, and then it's so we need to okay. So what we want to do is instead of doing this, let's concatenate the string by doing this, writing it, concatenating a new line every time we write a score. Okay. So with that being said, since we have already created the file, all you need to do is just delete that. Okay. Once you delete that, let's go ahead and see if it works now. So we are going to have JKL 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have written the file. Okay, we're still having the same issue over here. We're having this. Oh, we also need to. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay. I think I got it. So you can either concatenate it, or we could just go back to our previous method. And all we need to do is we need to also create a new line after the score of the player. So just redo this. Okay, I'm gonna go just delete it from Visual Studio Code itself. Just delete it. 1, 2, 3, 4. The file was created, and there you go. So nice and clearly, the file, as you can see, is created, right? Just like that. So we can see that our code works perfectly fine. So I'm just going to copy this and update evidence.doc file. We have one F. Oh, okay. New player creation. I think we messed up a little bit on our evidence.doc file. Yeah, the thing that we messed up is we needed to write this where the output is. Cut this, and I want to go ahead and paste this. Over here is where we go ahead and paste our screenshot. Sometimes if you do this kind of copying with Windows, the screenshot gets really grainy, so make sure you fix that. I don't have time right now, so I'm just going to continue to the next question. Okay, so the next question is object-oriented programming, element called balloon, and then we have to save it with this particular name right here. So since it's a PDF, I'm just going to copy the name. And let's go ahead and create a new file. Put this name in .py. Okay, so over here we need to obviously create a class now, and the class name is balloon. Okay, so the first question we just need to go ahead and do the constructors. Okay, so class balloon. Okay, so we want to just mention that we've got some private attributes, health, and we also got our private attributes, color, and we also want to do is private attribute of defense item. Okay, then what we can do is def init self. Obviously, it's not about none. It uses defense item and color using parameters and it initializes health to 100. So we can say color p defense item p. So first, the question says that health, so HEAL, is initialized to 100. Self dot color is initialized to color p, and self dot is initialized to defense item dot p. So that is the first part of our program. So let's just go ahead and quickly copy this and save this. Moving on to the next part of the question. If database should be private, and make sure that if you're using Python, then the declarations must be given in comments. So keep that in mind. The get method, get defense, returns the defense item of the object. Amend your main program to write get defense item. Okay, so def get defense item. So it just returns self dot defense item. Okay, so that should be it. So if you're amending the main class, right, it's always best that you actually copy the entire thing. Okay, that's always best. Just keep that in mind. Okay, so let's move on to the next part. The objects method change health takes an integer numbers parameter and adds to the health attribute. Okay, so we want to do is def, then we want to do is change health, and it adds to the health attribute. So let's just go ahead and write. So we can say that the self health attribute right here is adding to the is equal to, again, the same thing, plus, and it takes as an integer number as parameter. Okay, so we can just call it new health. Okay, and just add it to new health. That's it. So again, copy the entire, copy this and go right down and paste it. So the objects method check health, okay, returns true if the health object is 0 or less, and returns false if otherwise health remaining. So if it's 0 or less, so we want to do is we're going to write a health check health, right? So let's just go ahead and do that right now. So def check health, right? Since it's object and programming, so if self dot health is less than or equal to 0, then we want to go ahead and return true. Else, regardless of the result, we want to return false. All right. So once you've written check health, copy the class, scroll down, paste it. Okay, so let's move on to the next part of the problem. Amend the main program to take an input as defense item and color from the user. Create a new balloon with the identifier balloon1 and input the data. Okay, so we have get defense item, change health, and all that. Okay. So with balloon1, so we want to take the color and the defense item from the user. Okay, take the color and defense item from user. So we want to say user color is input. Enter the color of the balloon. User defense is going to be input. Enter the defense item in this case, right? And it creates a balloon1 with a new identifier. Okay, so we are going to call it balloon1 equal to, so it's going to be balloon, and it takes the color as parameter. So we can say user color and user defense. There we go. So new balloon object is created. Okay, so this is going to be our code that we want to go ahead and copy and just kind of paste it here. Okay, so yeah. So the function defend takes the function balloon object as parameter. So the function defend takes the balloon object as a parameter, takes an input strength of an opponent from the user. Okay. Uses change health to subtract strength from the input of the opponent's health. Outputs a defense item of the balloon. Checks the health of the object and outputs an appropriate message if no health is remaining or if health is remaining, and return the amended balloon object. Okay, so returns the amended balloon object. Right, defend. So what we want to do is the def defend. So it takes balloon object as parameter. So I'm just going to call it balloon object. Okay, whatever the parameter is. So the opponent strength is taken as an integer input from the user, because this is what we're going to be subtracting from, that health thingy. So input of the opponent. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to say balloon object dot, we want to go ahead and change health, right? So we want to say change health, and it takes the opponent strength as parameter. So once we change the health, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and go to print the strength of the, oh, okay, so we want to print, I think, what do you want to print? Output a defense item. So the defense item of the is, then we want to just go ahead and add a comma. So we want to do is balloon object dot get defense. I think that's what it, yeah, it was get defense. Okay, so now it wants to go ahead and we want to say that we want to check the health of the balloon. So health status is going to be balloon object. So it's going to be check health. So if it is true, that means there's no health remaining. So if health status, then output the appropriate message. So we can say no health remaining, else print strength from there. Has no health, or if it has health remaining. So you want to go ahead and just tell health remaining, and it wants to return the amended balloon object. So return balloon object. Okay. So with that being said, amend the main program to call the function. Okay, call the function. So we want to call the function defend. So we want to say defend. Okay, we're going to call it. And why I'm doing X is because we want to go ahead and keep this balloon object, in X, right? We want to keep that. So, okay, let's first go ahead and copy the pseudocode, the program code for defend, right? And save that. Then we have called defend. So I think that's what only they're asking us to do. Yep. So just want to go ahead and just copy this. The only thing that needs to be done is it's going to be, let's just call it X defend. Okay, so once you've called X defend, let's see what they're asking us to do. Test your program by using the following input: shield, red, and strength of opponent is 50. So print, enter the color of the balloon, that's going to be red. Enter the defense item. Hopefully everything goes right. Okay. Oh, I haven't. Okay. Sorry. So that's gonna be balloon 1 in our case. Okay, we gotta rechange. So balloon color is red. Then we have shield. And the strength of the opponent, that's gonna be 50, so it's working correctly. Okay, for now it's not. Get defense. Oh god. Okay, so get defense items. So get items. That was the name, I think. Yeah, get defense item. Sorry. So now again, red. Then we have got our shield. Then we've got 50. So we can say health remaining. The defense of the balloon is shield. So the output is working perfectly fine. So what we're going to do is just paste this screenshot. All right. And obviously we want to go ahead and make some changes. So first of all is this. Change this. And for balloon object as well, we had made some changes. Just copy the entire thing. Okay. So that does our question 2 as well. All right, so let's go ahead and look at question 3 now. So question 3 is obviously an absolute data type, which is going to be queue array. It is a circular queue. Okay, so that's interesting. It's a circular queue. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and create question 3 with the name that they've given us. Let's just copy this. .py. Okay. So we want to go ahead and first go ahead and create, according to the question, that queue array is a 1D array of string items. So what we're going to say is queue array. So it is holding string for x in range. It's a 1D array holding 10. So it's going to be 10 right here. That's pretty much it. So the head pointer is initialized to the tail pointer initialized to 0, and the number of items in the queue is initialized to 0. So we also want our head pointer to 0. We want the tail pointer, which points to the next free space in the queue, and number of items is equal to 0. So all of these things are initialized to 0. So all I want to do is just copy this. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so the next part of the question so they've given us a pseudocode for the function enqueue is written in pseudocode. So what I want to do is I just want to go ahead and do a split screen to quickly go ahead and make it a little bit easier for me to write the code. I'm just going to go, let's make it a little bit more smaller. So the function enqueue takes by reference. So when it's by reference, remember we have to do it by global. So everything is taken by reference apart from data to add right here. Right? So by reference, tail pointer, integer, number of items as integer. Okay, so number of items and data to add are not taken as references, we can see over here. But the thing is, number of items must be, okay, it should be taken as, by reference. The reason over here being is that the number of items determines, okay, that how many items are there in the queue, and it helps us to implement the circular queue. So it should have been by reference as well. So to be safe, all we want to do is we want to go ahead and also do that by reference. Okay, so global, that means we have to pass it by global. So queue array, head pointer, tail pointer, number of items. Okay, so we want to see that if the first is checking if the queue is full or not. So if number of items is equal to, so we want to say equal to, so we want to say length of queue array. That means we know that it is going to be full. Right, sorry. So queue array. Then we want to say return. So what does it return? So it returns booleans. So we want to say return false. That means it couldn't enqueue. Else, we want to go and add the thing to the queue array. We're going to use a tail pointer because that's like, where the data is added to the tail of the queue. And then since the circular queue, we want to see that if the tail pointer is greater than or equal to 9, because it's a queue of 10 items, then we can say the tail pointer is going to be set back to, it's reset to 0, right? Because it's a circular queue. Else, we want to say that we just want to increment tail pointer. So as you can see right here, we are going to be incrementing tail pointer, and number of items should also be incremented. So we want to exit the if else statement. Number of items should also be incremented by 1, and we want to go ahead and return true. Okay, so that does our enqueue function. Okay, so that does the enqueue function. Okay, let's move on to the next part of the program. The function dequeue returns false if the queue is empty, false, sorry, and or returns the next data item in the queue. All right, so we know that dequeue is going to be obviously popping, like it's moving an item from the queue. So def, so we want to say dequeue. Obviously, this isn't going to take any parameters, but we want to go ahead and just take these globals. Okay, so we want to say that if number of items is equal to 0, then we want to say that we want to return false. That means the queue is empty. Else, if the queue is not empty, that means we want to go ahead and pop some items out of it. So let's say that the output value is the tail pointer. Sorry, it's a queue, right? So since it's a queue, we want to do it from the head. That means from the start of the queue. So it's a FIFO structure, first in, first out structure. Then we want to check that if head pointer is equal to tail pointer, right? Or we want to check if head pointer is greater than or equal to 9, right? That's when we're going to be going ahead and resetting head pointer to 0. Okay, but first we need to increment the head pointer and see where the head pointer lies. Okay, unlike tail pointer, which would have been which already would have been greater than or equal to 9, because like it probably was pointing to the next free space, which was 9 already. But in our case, the head pointer doesn't do that. So what we want to do is we want to first increment head pointer and then check for it. So increment head pointer. Okay, and if that is the case, we want to go ahead and do that. Now, what we want to say is number of items, number of item is minus equal to 1. And we want to return output value. So we return either false. Okay, so as you can see, false over here is given as a string. So we want to return this as false, right, as a string. Now, let's go ahead and copy this and paste this. All right, save the code. Okay, now the question says that amend the main program, take 11, okay, input 11 string values from the user, 11, and use enqueue function to add each element, output an appropriate message stating the addition was successful or not, and call dequeue. So 11 means that the last item won't be enqueued. And then call the dequeue function twice and output the return value each time. So we want to go ahead and do a for loop in this case, because we want to take 11 inputs. So for x in range of 11 times user input, let's just call it that, and you're going to call input enter a string, so the user is going to enter a string. With that being said, what we want to do is we want to go for enqueue. So I'll remember if the addition was successful or not. So successful. So successful in this case, so if it's true, that means it was enqueue. So the name makes perfect sense. So enqueue, you're going to be putting user input. So if successful, then print successful. Else print was not enqueue wasn't successful. I want to zoom in a little bit. So enqueue wasn't successful. So this is where we take the 11, all right, 11 inputs from the user. So once this has been done, okay, once this has been done 11 times, because the last one is not going to be, we want to call the function dequeue twice. So what we want to do is we just want to print, dequeue, call dequeue and print the output, right? So let's just go and print appropriate message, dequeue values, that's it. Okay, so this is obviously the main program, so I'm just going to paste this right here and save it. All right, so with that being said, now we're going to test with AB all the way from A to K. All right, so that's all you need to do. So let's go ahead and try to see what happens. So enter a string A, B, C, D, I'm turning on caps lock, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. It was not successful and it dequeues correctly, the last two values. So That's a perfect output that we were looking for. Let's just go ahead and take the screenshot, and according to the question, just copy and paste the screenshot real quick. And I want to make it as small as possible. There you go. So that is the end of the paper. Okay, so obviously I'm going to leave a GitHub repository down in the description where I've already, kind of solved these papers, so you can have a look, and if you need any help with that, all right? And I'm going to catch you in the next video. Peace.